So we're back on the RWBY train. We've not been disrailed outside of a winter fortress, so that's good.
Give it 2 minutes.
Give it 2 minutes.
I'm sure we will derail this train.
Oh, we were derailed already, but that's blooper reel. That was before the cut. Everyone's like, wait, I want to see the derail. We talked about Weird Al Yankovic. It's going to be in the blooper reel on Patreon. That's what the $5 patron level is for. Anyway, we are talking about RWBY Ice Queendom episode 4. As a reminder, we are not doing reactions for this because it's not a solo Rooster Teeth production. It is in conjunction with, I cannot remember the studio and that's going to haunt me, but it's airing on Crunchyroll. And I would like to preserve my relationship with Crunchyroll because it's friendly right now. So like, they're good humans and I don't want to mess with it.
And
so
who are you?
So we're just gonna talk about it.
And you are?
Skeletons are part of it. I'm Katie.
I'm Megan.
And you really gotta let me get through my intros.
Just feels so weird.
Well,
waiting
it's
so
my
long
channel.
to introduce ourselves. Sorry, it's weird.
Just because you get right down to business in the horror section doesn't mean I can't meander in mine.
Okay. Do your thing.
Well, now I'm derailed.
Excellent.
Damn it.
My work here is done.
Ah,
See you guys
the
later.
self-fulfilling prophecy has been fulfilled.
Well,
Damn it.
well. If it isn't the consequences of my actions. I'm sorry.
This is the good stuff, folks. This is
Please.
what you're here for.
Please continue. I'm very sorry.
I keep looking at our whiteboard and it still has the notes from the Nope video. I'm like, I'm not going to find anything there.
Nothing useful.
So, as I mentioned in the previous, I don't think these are vlogs and I don't think they're reviews. I think we just talk about shit.
Discussions.
That kind of discussion.
Yeah.
That's a great one. I'll have to see what I categorize the first one as. But as I talked about in the previous video, I did see this episode at Anime Expo. So this was my second time watching this tonight, and it goes down a little easier the second time. There are, knowing what's coming, knowing what is happening, it's a little easier to see things and put pieces into place, etc. Yeah, when we watched this at AX, sitting in the front row of the panel with a bunch of other people, and just kind of looking at each other during the cold open and going, did we miss an episode? Did they air an episode at RTX and like not tell us? Are we sure this is episode 4? Because boy, the pacing in this thing remains super abrupt.
Yeah, I concur.
You can see why I was confused.
I don't want to, like, I did not go to AX, and so this is actually the first time I'm watching this. So literally,
the we is me and everyone else freezing their asses off in main programming.
Literally, we just finished, for Katie rewatching it, me watching it for the first time, we just finished that up a few minutes ago. So
these are fresh.
Yeah, literally, I've had zero time to, like, sort of stew in this and, like, review it and mull over it.
I've had a month.
But my knee-jerk reaction is that I wasn't a fan of this episode. And that's not to say that I dislike this iteration of the show or that I think it's bad. It's just between the pacing and the very specific characterization choices, I'm finding it harder to get into than I anticipated.
Like, it's a fun spectacle, it's a fun side story, but it's not, for me, it doesn't quite hold the magic that a season of RWBY usually does. And I know it's well, we're only 4 episodes in, you gotta give it a chance, and this is the first episode we've had that isn't a rehash of season 1 in some capacity, which is fair.
Absolutely.
But this one felt a lot like rolling down a hill. Sometimes it's fun, and sometimes you're really worried you're going to hit something, and it's very discombobulating.
Yeah.
Like, there were definitely fun parts, but there were also parts where it's like, can you back up and give me like 3 more sentences on that? I really want the explanation. Nope, we're still going. We're still going. Alrighty.
Watching this episode, it made it very, like, more apparent than ever. I'm sitting here going, okay, yeah, this is an anime where we're probably only getting 13 episodes,
most likely,
not 26, because it is going at a breakneck pace, I think, to its detriment. Like, so much so that I kind of wish they hadn't spent 3 episodes recapping. And I kind of wish they would have just jumped into things in the middle of Beacon and kind of just had, like, exposition dumpy VO to be like, hi, I'm Ruby Rose. I'm currently attending Beacon Academy. We fight Grimm. This is my team. And that's how we roll. Like, I kind of wish that they had just done that so that we could have gotten down to
Brass
this,
tacks.
which is clearly what the show was always meant to be. And I'm like,
You wanted them to rip the Band-Aid off and just say, no, this is for fans of RWBY. If you haven't seen RWBY, you're going to be lost.
yeah, and look, I understand that there is a barrier to entry for things and that can be really off-putting to people.
Yeah.
I myself, usually, if I see a barrier of entry that is higher than, like, my knee, I will go, well...
This is why I'm into Critical Role and she's not.
I looked
4-hour episodes are like,
at that
why?
and went, well...
That sure is a fuck ton of content.
Yeah, and not to mention, we've joked about this. We've also joked about this.
It's also why I
off-camera.
dragged your ass into Legends of Vox Machina. It's like, there's no barrier of entry. They're animated episodes. They're 22 minutes apiece. Park your ass here.
Okay.
I know exactly who your favorite character is going to be, and we haven't started
And
yet.
you weren't wrong.
I was absolutely right. I know you well enough to know that you were going to be a Percy DeRollo fan.
He was pretty great.
Yes!
He checks so many boxes.
I know!
But we've also
Pick up the
joked
phone.
about
I fucking called it.
we've also
Anyway.
joked about this off camera, but just becoming such a big fan of, like, short form horror anthology series has also completely wrecked my attention span. So, like, if I see something longer than an hour podcast wise, if I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know about that.
Whereas I'm just like, I'm going to approach this in chunks.
I even have Roman Holiday. It's available on Hoopla if you guys are fans of audiobooks.
And Hoopla is available if you have a library card. So, like, get a library card and use it. They have all sorts of amazing shit.
It is a way to support the official release that is also free.
Yes. Checking out books from the library supports the author.
Yes, it supports it in official capacity in a non-piratey way. Please do that. It's very
Support your
helpful.
local libraries. Anyway.
Yes, big on supporting local library. But anyway, I have that downloaded and I've been looking at it and it's 7-8 hours, which isn't bad for an audiobook at all, But I look at it and I'm like, 7 hours? I could listen to, like, I've gotten so accustomed to listening to podcasts in 1 hour chunks, and even that, like, my brain starts to wander if a story is, like, over 20 minutes long. Like, it is truly ruined
Wow. Wow.
In my defense, also pandemic brain.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That everyone's got that. That's turns out that prolonged stress will fuck with your memory. Anyway,
Neither here nor there. That doesn't speak to the quality of this show.
It does not. This show is in 22-minute chunks.
That was a diatribe. Again, we've derailed the train again.
Derailed the train.
I'm determined to keep this train off the tracks.
Well, the tracks for this one aren't quite as fun as they were for the last 3-episode conglomerate, and I'm honestly wondering if this series wouldn't be better served to have 4-hour-long episodes, or 4 hour and 20. No, about an hour, 22 minutes.
Like movie length.
Yeah. Because I know they did the first 3 episodes to kind of get everyone in and be like, here's the recap with a few differences to kind of set everyone up, bring in all the fans, etc. Like, I know that's why they did it, but also, like, this brief 22 minutes was just enough to be intriguing, but also confusing. Again, like rolling down a hill.
A little bit. And not in like a cool way where a lot of stories about dreams in particular are meant to be kind of disorienting. That to me didn't feel like an intentional it didn't feel like an intentional artistic choice to have it feel so discombobulating. It legit felt like a timing and pacing issue.
I'm wondering.
Because I literally think they're just strapped for time. They're doing what they can with the allotted time that they have, and like they just need more of it. Like I said, I kind of wish they had just yeeted the recap and just given us a 2-minute exposition dump and just dropped us into partway through Beacon Academy, and anybody who's familiar with RWBY would have been able to pick up on where it was in the timeline immediately, and newcomers would have been like, okay, well, there's all the exposition that I need.
Yeah.
Everything else I'll figure out as I go.
You do sacrifice some character depth when you do that.
But we're doing that anyway!
Yeah. Again, sitting here,
finish your thought.
no, I mean, honestly, the other half of that thought was, but the way the stories go, we're not going to sit here and bag on this for an hour. We're not.
No.
It's, the thing is, again, there's parts of it that are really great. There's parts of it that resonate well.
There's lots that's
you
very
just
good and very
run
enjoyable.
so hard into the pacing that we can't not talk about that first, because that's the first thing that hits you. And again, watching it a second time and knowing where all of the little twists are, it goes down a lot easier.
Yeah.
But that requires a second watch, where for me, the only reason I'm giving it a second watch at this juncture instead of watch and immediate record is because I saw it at Anime Expo. And I've had a few weeks for that to kind of live in the back of my brain and for me to occasionally go, so Whitley's a bat. Okay. Like, that sort of thing. It's definitely one of those, like, okay, let's peel back some onion layers. Let's open up some symbolism here. Let's figure this out. It's given me a little bit of time for it to marinate. It's given me a little time to chew on it. So it works a lot better for me watching it the second time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the first time was just hella confusing.
Well, and yeah, especially, I can only imagine it even being more jarring right after having watched the first 3 episodes, and then...
Honestly, it might work better if you're doing a marathon session and you go from 3 to 4. Because for me, it was a week break. Mm-hmm. For you, it was like 3. You watch that 3 episode chunk and then you tune back in when the 4th one drops and you're like, did we miss one?
So, okay, pacing issues, which we already talked about extensively in the first video.
Yes.
How about we finish up talking about the things that we didn't like, and then we move over to the things that the show did really well. Because, I don't know.
I think mostly it's just the pacing hitting me in the face. Because this episode, again, things I didn't want to talk about in the first video, but this episode is the reason that we didn't get the full dream tutorial for Jean. We wanted to invest it here. We wanted to do it for RWBY. Showing Jean being under the Nightmare's influence kind of establishes the stakes and what needs to be done, but the actual run-through, like, this was our tutorial level. Mm-hmm. Everything else was before the title drop. This is the tutorial. This is where the gameplay starts. Everything else was Twilight Town. The title dropped. And now we're playing.
I guess my winter vacation is finally over.
Dope ass Disney train to the fun fucking part of the game.
Isn't that right, Big Nick? I really wish that instead of saying Big Nicholas to each other, they said Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas.
I don't think Jesus existed in this.
Hail Santa! Like it goes full Invader Zim Christmas special. Hail Santa, Big Nicholas. Hail Santa, Big Nicholas. Praise Santa! Sorry.
I have to derail at one point because you know that Invader Zim episode. There's one point, like in the middle of the story, where it cuts back to the snowman telling the story, and this little kid asks a very complicated question, and the snowman just rolls her under the bed.
Elude me, as I was saying.
So it turns out that was an actual comment from Standards and Practices.
You're kidding?
I'm not kidding. For those unfamiliar, standards and practices are basically, not Animaniacs, Tiny Toons referred to them in their opening credits as the censors. They're the ones that are like, this may not be appropriate for the age demographic you want to air this for. Gravity Falls has a very famous story for one of its episodes where they're doing a party where they had spin the bottle on a party flyer, and standards and practices said, no, we don't want that there. We don't want, all the implications. And so they removed that and put not approved by standards and practices on the flyer instead, and S&P approved it. So, there is a history of creatives clashing with standards and practices. Animaniacs would do a lot of, even worse jokes. So we sit here and be like, how did they get away with that? They got away with it by putting in decoys in the script.
I will say that it's particularly stringent when it comes to children's programming.
Yes,
in particular.
absolutely.
I don't think it's nearly as bad for just kind of regular TV programming, but for whatever reason, there's a lot of pearl clutching when it comes to kids shows.
Yeah. Think of the children. So that little bit in that episode was a straight up comment from standards and practices.
I don't remember what his question was, but I remember that child saying the word.
It was something about the story itself, the complexity of the story or the conceit. Something.
Pushing him on.
Yeah. Yep, that was a reaction to standards and practices. So, we can't keep this train on the fucking rail.
Can we rewatch that episode? I know it's not Christmas time. Can we rewatch?
Merry Christmas, Big Nicholas.
Christmas in July. It's still time. There's still enough time. Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
As I was saying before we went to S&P hell.
Before we started talking about Big Nick.
No, I want to talk about this world that's established in her dream, because keep in mind, this is the nightmare pulling stuff from Weiss's psyche and her opinions on people and her views of the world and her views of herself and building this dream out of it. Mm-hmm. Because it needed to be, for one, the nightmare has a lot more power to draw on with Weiss than he did with Jean, because Jean was only just gotten his aura unlocked. I think I described it as, let's sail this ocean liner in this puddle.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly how you put it.
Different for Weiss. There's a lot more to draw from there, just in terms of sheer stupid power supply. So, seeing this extremely locked down empire, seeing just these rote factory workers who are more drones than people, seeing Klein established as 7 separate characters, which I love.
Yeah. I will say, Atlas looks a lot worse than it does when they finally get there.
It doesn't look worse than it does in canon right now.
So, now it's just kind of a crater.
Yeah, so RWBY spoilers for all of it. But you should know that if you're watching these by now. And I'll put it as the top line in the description.
Please do.
Sorry. Whoops, fuck that up.
Didn't mean to go into the actual series proper.
You derailed my intro where I was going to say RWBY spoilers, and here we are. No.
That's what happens.
That's what happens. But just the hero worship of the idea of Big Nicholas and the eyes of Jacques Schnee everywhere. And when
they
he pops
follow
in,
you.
yes,
Yeah.
like Jesus portraits, but the opposite. And just the whole
Jesus portraits? Do people really make Jesus portraits follow you? In the
There are portraits where the way the eyes are painted, regardless of where you stand in the room, it looks like they're looking at you.
Yeah.
It's usually portraits of Jesus.
See, I always think of the Haunted Mansion.
That's different.
I always think of the Haunted Mansion when it comes, or Scooby-Doo when it comes to portraits where eyes.
It's not like moving eyes. It's just the way they're painted.
I'm just saying, why would people do that?
Because Jesus is watching you.
It's so weird. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway.
No more derailing. My apologies.
No, this is either going to be great or it's going to be terrible.
This is a mess. I'm sorry.
Are you enjoying the mess? Let us know in the comments below.
I'm sorry, everyone.
Oh my god.
It's been a long week.
We're recording this on a Friday night. It's 9 p.m. We're fucking exhausted because this week has been stupid. So, this is what you get. We're going to try and get this out before the next episode drops, but really, this is what you get.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us for this
The world,
madness.
super cool. Robots,
Ow.
Klein robots,
And
super
then
cool.
just Jacques being everywhere, watching everything, and then being that massive, imposing, drops from the fucking ceiling hologram of his head. Did you ever read A Wrinkle in Time?
Not since I was a child.
It reminds me of It.
Oh,
Yeah.
Spoilers for Wrinkle in Time.
Book's been out for like 40 years.
I think 60.
More than that. I don't know when it was written, I just know when I read it.
But it did have a movie come out recently, which is, it was cute.
Movie's been out for over a year. Anyway, so a reminder of that, or like The Wizard of Oz. I know different people, but nonetheless, like that really big, imposing presence in the room.
Pay no attention to the man with the clip-on tie.
But yeah, and I don't know what the robot dog is supposed to be, but I'm assuming that's another Klein because it has a little bow tie. Loved the use of unseen servant, which was also basically Klein. Like they are all of them Klein. Mom just being a silhouette in the background, laughing with like. I know she didn't have marionette strings, but she seemed like a shadow puppet more so than the other shadow people that we saw. And Winter just being in a tome to pass judgment.
Yeah.
And Whitley being a bat.
I thought he was Rouge for a second. I thought I was watching Sonic X for a hot moment. I like
Master Emerald is actually just a really big piece of dust.
I like her visualization of her little brother being a vampire rodent, you know?
Well, you know, it's... I don't want to be like, oh, it's stereotypical younger siblings because, you know, different experiences, but him making his comment about, I always keep my eye on what you're doing, my brave, foolish sisters. Mm-hmm. And then him being a bat where he's basically, you know, the little sneak and sees everything, reports back, but is also absolutely willing. He's like, oh, well, you know, I don't want you to get in trouble. But the second she's in trouble, he's like, I told you you were going to get in trouble. Like, we know now, having seen the latest seasons, like, there's depth to Whitley that you don't see upon meeting him, and that we're not going to see here because this story isn't about Whitley and the depth and potential of this character who was raised in this completely shitty household. Mm-hmm. the Schnee siblings. Problems all the way down. And that's not the point here. The point here, this is how she sees her younger brother, and to an extent, this is how he acts. Mm-hmm. So... I love that. And also the reflection on how she sees Winter as this arbiter of justice, as this person who is always correct. Default to what Winter says, Winter got out. Winter knows what she's doing. It's so weird. My cat is named Winter, so I'm just like...
You're calling
I say, Winter got out, and I'm like, shit, I gotta find her. Like, no, she's upstairs on the bed.
It is I think it's great, and it definitely speaks to like the middle child syndrome of like the older sibling is always right and they can do no wrong, and then the younger one's literally just a pest that's always bothering me.
Not the way it was in my household.
Also,
I say that as the middle child.
Not how I view my siblings, but also it's just like, oh yeah, it's very easy to see, especially in this household, why she would feel that way as the middle Schnee child.
And I mean, the stereotype of the middle child is that they are generally speaking ignored.
Yeah, they are the forgotten one.
I honestly think if Winter had not escaped into the military, that would have been what happened with Weiss. She would have been ignored. So, because she's not a male heir and she's not the oldest. But Winter leaving put all that pressure back on her. Mm-hmm. So... a little different in the execution, but yeah, I loved that just everything that we saw from the workers being drones and, you know, be grateful for your work. I gave you jobs. We're going to celebrate this. Fucking singing hi-ho in the middle of this, like, bless. And just the factory workers being faceless drones. The White Fang being essentially grim in tunics. Which was not a thing I noticed the first time around, and definitely fucking noticed it this time.
I did not pick up on it.
Oh,
I saw the claws, but I just kind of figured.
And I mean, they were all barefoot with like the claw-like toenails and the spines protruding out of the back.
Oh,
like,
I missed that entirely.
Yeah, again, things that you benefit from on a second rewatch. So that it's, again, how Weiss sees people. How she sees the White Fang. How she sees, like, this is how she sees the White Fang. And basically, she has conflated them as monsters in her mind.
Yikes!
Yep.
Yikes, Mishni.
And then just like, oh, we can't have dummies in the Empire. We lock them up, but it's warm and safe and fun and warm.
Hey, you're not a dummy, are you?
No, of course not.
You're a dummy, you totally tell me, right? You have to tell me if you're a dummy.
If you're a cop, you have to tell me. It's like a law or something.
You're like being a dummy.
Good luck with your heavily guarded base and your nightmare infestation. And here she is. Hey, sweetie.
Hi, Winter.
Hi, Winter. Yep. This is the cat. She will not get on the lap, so who knows if you'll see her. But Winter the cat is here now.
She has arrived.
She has arrived.
Winter is coming. Winter is here.
Winter is here. This is why it's always weird to talk about Winter Schnee and be like...
It is funny, too, because, of course, you know, in the dummy prison, in dummy jail.
In dummy jail. We love dummy jail.
It's the majority of Team Juniper.
Pyrrha's not there.
Sans Pyrrha, yeah. And I think I was just like, yeah, it checks out that she would write off the people who became Pyrrha's team, but would not, like, lump Pyrrha in with the rest of them.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, at least for this characterization of Weiss.
Yeah.
It's
all these little bits of insight into her character at this time, etc. We also do... Hi. Drool on my hand, you little menace. I love her very much.
She's so cute.
Everyone like, I want to see the cat. I'm like, if I try to pick her up, she's gone. Maybe she'll jump up there at some point and you'll get to see the cat. But yeah, also going on the... I know I made mention last video of, like, it feels like they messed with Weiss's characterization. It's made a lot of those moments that were really sweet kind of cheap, with knowing that it's a front, that she doesn't actually believe what she's saying. Like, we know the bunk bed thing wasn't a front because we actually got her talking to herself, thinking to herself.
Being like,
no,
it wasn't a lie.
Like, that wasn't a lie. I actually did want bunk beds. So we did get to see that little bit, that genuine bit, but we also see very much in the way that this city and these dream figments are built, like what she actually thinks. And that we've seen all the character designs for the characters coming in. So, like, we've seen Pyrrha in that amazing dress, and
I actually haven't.
You haven't seen all the character designs?
No.
You never looked at, like, the art or anything, or, like, the poster, or...
I've had...
So I'm going to save this point until it actually happens.
That being said, I love Weiss's style. I saw a few things during the initial announcement, but yeah, as far as any other character reveals, stuff like that, I have not seen, mostly because I have been avoiding Twitter, and I've just been, like, so preoccupied with work that I just haven't noticed.
We are going to save that point for when it happens then. That's going to be later.
But Weiss looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
And this is
how she sees herself.
This is also the first episode that I've seen with the intro and the outro.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely beautiful on both counts. And I love that, you know, every other season of RWBY, like, the girls get new kind of outfits.
Yeah.
I like the outfits for this season. Ruby, excuse me, Ruby sporting the little, her crescent rose being a snowboard. That's so cool. The little snow hat that she has in the red jacket. Like, it's such an adorable style.
And also Crescent Rose working backwards.
Being like,
she doesn't actually know.
Which is a really cool detail. And I like that like, there's a lot of little details like that in this episode that really emphasize, like, dream logic, which is super cool. Where it's just like, of course she thinks that's how it works because she's not paying attention. Yeah. And so it makes sense that the weapon itself doesn't work right in this world. It's a very cool detail.
Yeah. And also I would think for the nightmare, like, you know, sometimes you have dreams and halfway through you're like, no, what the fuck is this? This is not real. What the hell? Mm-hmm. I would imagine the nightmare is crafting the dream to keep her there. So, like, of course it's in line with everything she thinks. Of course it works the way she thinks it does. This is, everything in her mind is right and correct. So this is just how things work. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine to keep her under. Mm-hmm. So it can use her as a farm, I guess.
Yeah. But you're I wholly
somewhere between Freddy Krueger and Alien.
I wholly agree with you though. I really don't like the characterization of Weiss in this way, and it's probably my least favorite thing about the show, even more so than the pacing. And it's something I was kind of willing to forgive in those first 3 episodes because I'm like, okay, I don't know where they're going with this, but you know, it's fine for it to be a different take on the character. Now that I see the kind of purpose of it, you know, not only does it cheapen those moments within the show itself, but also it kind of makes the dramatic weight of like when she and Ruby are face to face in this dream world, it makes those dramatic stakes ring hollow, in my opinion, because now Ruby is upset about a facade that didn't exist in the original canon. And so I'm just like, it kind of makes me mad that those are the dramatic stakes that we're working with. It's not that those are bad, it's just that I'm like, I'm not a fan of that.
It makes sense for what they're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
For when they're setting
it's not bad.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
Yeah, like for when they're setting it, for the story that they want to tell, for the development that they want to have, because, you know, I'm not saying this is, good stories have characters change. No, not necessarily, but it's kind of what we're going for here if you're going into a dive to the heart sort of scenario, which is kind of what we're working with here. Mm-hmm. A little less stained glass, but, you know. So it makes sense that that's kind of the twist they would take. And I mentioned this in the previous video, but one of the things they said at the AX panel was, you know, there are so many characters in RWBY and they're so fleshed out. They knew they had to pick one and decide whose story it was going to be and who they were going to like work with. And they chose Weiss. And so that's why we've had this swerve in her character development, so we could tell this particular story, so that we could get all of this development for her kind of slotted into place over the course of the story, so that season 2 kind of goes off without a hitch. Like, she's got that development, it's good, and they go.
I don't want to call it a narrative cul-de-sac, but like kind of a narrative cul-de-sac where we go in and we come back in at the exact point where we left. Continuity-wise.
That's kind of what a mid-quill is.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah, again, it serves its purpose.
Like, we know nobody's going to fucking die, with the possible exception of Shion, because they're not in
the rest
they're
of the
not
show.
in
Yet.
Yes. Yet. Yeah. But
if
aside
they
from that,
do
it's like
pop up in the show proper, that would be fantastic.
we would all lose our goddamn minds. But yeah, we are probably not working with if you die in the dream, you die for real stakes. Like, this isn't Freddy Krueger, you know, we're
Boo.
little Freddy Krueger, little Maleficent, little alien. We kind of do need to step back and be like, this nightmare is using her to make more nightmares. Guys, these are the stakes.
Yeah, it just frustrates me a little bit because Ruby's just like, I know she's meant to be more immature than she is in later seasons, but she's also an extremely empathetic person.
Yeah.
So to see her get like really childishly mad and to be like, oh, it was all a lie, I'm gonna snap you out of this and then never speak to you again. It's just like, you know, this is like weird funhouse mirror Weiss logic, right? Like it seems, like I said, that it just kind of seems like artificially creating dramatic stakes, and it rings hollow to me in particular.
I think it's also because we've had 7 more seasons of development for these characters. We know where the story goes. We know what's happening in their world. Like, we know the steps they take. We know the bonding. We know the breaks. We know all of that fun stuff. So it's hard enough going back to like season 1 characterization. It feels a little bit like Whiplash to be back there anyway. Mm-hmm. And then looking at it and looking at this and going, you're better than that. Well, yeah, you're better than that like 5 seasons from where this is taking place. So again, just from our vantage point, it's hard not to sit here and be like, come on.
Haven't we already worked past this? Yeah.
But that's not fair to the story.
No.
And again, this is where I wonder about like people who have never done a RWBY before. How is this sitting with you?
Yeah. And again, in defense of Ruby's reaction here, it is a much bigger deal to be like, oh, you're this duplicitous person. Like, I get mad.
You're on my team and you lied to my fucking face. How dare you?
Yes.
So that is fair. And it's valid for, again, the point in time that we're in, where the biggest stakes in season 1 were Jean cheated to get in.
Yeah.
And also, there's robberies and Penny's a robot. Like, those are our stakes in season 1. They're not huge.
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
In her defense, I knew, when I was in high school, I definitely knew one person in particular who was very duplicitous. And so it's just like, wait, you said that about me? Like, it's just like, yeah, no, I understand her getting very upset because their life and death team dynamic stuff that they deal with is indeed much higher stakes than my high school nonsense.
Yeah.
You know.
And that in a life or death stakes, I'm never going to talk to you again, feels a little like high school nonsense, but also like RWBY is 14. They've been at school for like a fucking month.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, in defense, like, in defense of her, no, like, her problems in the world of Remnant are far bigger. So I feel like her emotional reaction is more justified than I'm giving it credit for.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can understand why they did it in the story. You can understand where they are at this particular point in development, etc. But your reaction is also built from all of the context you have, all of the knowledge that you have, all of the emotions that this show has drowned you in over the past 8 years. Because let's be real, there have been some episodes that are like, I'm just going to lie on the floor and not move for the next 10 minutes. See you later. So your reaction to this, because it's come out after all of these points in the series where we have massive leaps in development and leaps in stakes and things going nuts, your reaction is informed by all of that. So again, it feels a little bit like Whiplash. And that's a valid reaction. And you can have that reaction and still understand that for the story and the point in time and the stakes that we're working with here, it makes sense for the characters. So it's one of those things where you have to know enough about, let's be real, media analysis, and enough about yourself to be able to step back and go, what works for the story and why isn't it working for me in particular? And be able to separate those out. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's bad.
Exactly.
I swear, I go into more media analysis bits for RWBY than anything else I talk about. Because let's be real, we need some media literacy in the fandom today. Fandom in general needs a level of media literacy.
Anyway,
sorry, I just went into bed, and there goes the
off
cat
into the void for a little while. But
bye, Winter. She's leaving. She has judged us unworthy.
Oh no!
That she's going to imprison us for eternity. Little extreme, but you know, she is a cat.
So cute. I wish you guys could see her. She's adorable.
I mean, if you want to see her, I have so many photos of her on social media.
To circle back to stuff that I really liked about this episode, I loved the means in which RWBY could communicate with Shion.
Let's talk about Shion stuff here.
Yeah, I love, again, it's warped dream logic, but there's like still a structure to it, and just being able to see RWBY like put these markers so that now she has like doorways to walk into, like to teleport her to different areas, which is really cool. And payphones. She gets little payphones to, and I love the payphone says heart to heart. Like that's such a cute way of like, okay, I'm communicating to you guys in the outside world. Like that's such a, it's just a cute, fun thing, and seeing them appear like as RWBY tosses these coins, it's a very, very charming.
As like parking meters, and become whatever they need to be: a map, an escape route, a decoy. Just it's fun, but I also appreciate that like
I didn't mean
to. I don't care anymore. Like the decoy is me. I don't care. Like oh boy. But yeah, I also appreciate that we have, okay, this is their rather semblance, I assume. This is how everything works. They've got this all set up with their tool, with their dream catcher. And then the coins are, like, again, they drain a little bit of their aura. And once it's done, no more help for you. You're on your own.
You're on your own.
So setting up the stakes, setting up the mechanics of how this works, and that, okay, as long as you set your markers, you can go back someplace. You can't go forward, but it is a quick retreat if you get into a tight spot. You can have a map, but it only maps out where you've been and what you've seen. It doesn't give you information you don't already know. Like, you can have decoy, but it only lasts for a hit. You get, like, I appreciate that we have all of these tools at our disposal, but that you also have to be wise about how you use them because it's a very limited amount.
And by the time we get to the end of the episode, RWBY's down to 1 coin. And I will say, I'm like, she had plenty at the start. What are you burning those on, kid?
I wonder if it
mostly
takes
doors.
I wonder if it takes a coin to set a marker.
Maybe.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no. Mostly doors, mostly markers. And then the occasional phone a friend.
Yeah. The expository phone calls for the benefit of the audience.
Yeah.
And then just the hourglass on the outside with the flowers in it. I love it.
It's very cool.
I want to know what kind of flowers they are and if they have some sort of symbolic meaning pertaining to this.
It wouldn't surprise me, for sure. But yeah, just aesthetically speaking, there's so much cool stuff in this show. And there's so much cool stuff in the dream world and related to Shion.
Cannot wait to see a Shion cosplayer at the next RTX.
That's going to be great.
It's going to happen. It is going to happen. And I love it.
It's just such a cool design.
Yeah, they are, like, I know I made jokes about who is this Final Fantasy looking human in my RWBY, but, like, I like them.
I do too.
I like this whole system about how their stuff works. I like them.
Like I said,
give me the side stories where it's them go hunting nightmares and having to kind of... I feel like by proxy, you have to be involved in people's shit in order to make this work.
Nightmare Hunter.
Like,
love it.
They facilitate that, like, okay, this human is the victim. All of these people, you are their friends. Great. We're going to set you up and we're going to go. But, like, what do they take away from this? Like, is there any psychic blowback, essentially, because you are connecting people's minds? Like, how does this work for them? I want the side stories. I want the novel. Who is it? Is E.C. Myers, right? Who's doing the writing? E.C. Myers, get on that. I want the novel. Gimme. Gimme.
This is a poetry journal. Fine, then poems.
Poems about Spider-Man. Legit.
But yeah, no joke.
Fucking legit, though.
I would 100% read The Nightmare Hunter. That would be so cool.
Yes!
I really hope they do show up in canon, in the show proper.
I can see them showing up as kind of an NPC in the background as an Easter egg, but I don't think we're going to get a big...
Now, Salem, I am your worst nightmare. That would be so funny. I'm sure anybody who didn't see the anime, they're like, who are you? What? Watch Ice Queendom.
Does anyone want to explain this to me? Or they they do like the My Hero Academia where there's just an episode in the middle of the season and half of it's its own little story and the other half of it pertains to the movie that's coming out and it times with the movie's release in Japan, so you can kind of segue into it and go, and this is where it takes place in the timeline. And we're back.
Yeah, have half an episode in season 9 where Shion is in half the episode, and then it's like, wait, where are you going? She's like, they're like, I have to go. My planet needs me.
Oh my god. I do rather like the My Hero Academia bent to it. Like, boy, we just got half an episode with this random human being, and it's like, they're advertising the side story, but not being obvious about it. And I'm like, no, whenever they advertise an anime-only episode, it's a tie-in to a movie. Or it's about Froppy, whom we love. Froppy's great. She is great. Anyway.
But yeah, again, the like, lots of cool stuff in this episode. Pacing,
great animation, great art. Like again, this is
cool music too.
Beautiful.
Like,
yeah, the music's good.
Weiss's entry music was really cool. Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
It's very weird not hearing the music of the Williamses.
Yeah,
but like, it's still good music. Again, this is different. You can't sit here and expect
the same
thing that you would get for a solely Rooster Teeth production. This is an anime. This is a different joint production.
It's a different medium. It's a different studio.
Huh.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's about all I have. Like, the pacing is still an issue. There's a difference between how we react to something versus whether it actually serves the story, and it helps to be able to step back and examine your reactions. Mm-hmm. I love how much insight into Weiss's mind and worldview and sense of self this entire world gives. Like, I love the insight it provides. And I'm pretty sure that the next episode is going to involve yeeting RWBY out of the dream and then turning around and bringing the whole team in.
Absolutely.
Like, pretty sure that's going to happen this next episode. And then the rest of it's just going to be like, all right, we got the whole team in. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. Very excited for more. And even though still having issues with like sort of the larger things, and like, this is still such a cool show to look at.
Yeah.
It's still characters that we love. And yeah, I'm still having a good time. I will be very interested, and I still like am really excited about the overall potential of this premise.
Yeah,
like I'm super jazzed for it. Like, I will be very interested to see when it's all said and done how I feel about the season as a whole.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that like sometimes there are some sort of hiccups along the way, but like those wrinkles and creases sort of work themselves out as like the show goes on.
How does it work in a marathon view? How does it work as a movie viewing? So like, yeah, again, depending on how the next 2 episodes go, my theory about this might have benefited from being 4-hour-long episodes. Like, maybe that shakes out. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe the rocky pacing was just trying to get everything established before we could swing into the meat of the story.
I think for, a lot of shows this day, the big question is, does it pass the 4-episode test? Of like, if I'm a new viewer and I'm interested in this show, but I don't know if it's for me, how many episodes do I give it before I bail?
I usually do 5.
I've heard the number, like, I've
it's
heard
usually between 3 and 5.
3 and 5.
Speaking.
I usually give it 4. Like, 4 is usually my number, because that was the number of episodes of Game of Thrones I gave before I was like, okay, I'm in.
3 tends to be my hour-long episodes number, and 5 tends to be my 22 minutes and then 8 of commercials episodes.
For this one, I think if I had watched all of them in a row, like on a Saturday or something like that, I think this would have passed the 4-episode test. Like, if I wasn't already in.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's hard to make that call because we were always going to watch it. It's RWBY. Like, we've been in it to win it for 8 seasons. It's like, hang on. I went to the very first RWBY panel at RTX and watched the very first episode and like half of the second one at the panel. Like, I've been in it to win it from day one for this. There's no way I'm not going to watch Ice Queendom.
I think pacing issues and characterization issues aside, I think, again, the premise, the setup, and the aesthetics of the world are so cool that I think if I had come into this blind, this would have passed the 4-episode test, and I would have been like, okay, let's see where this goes. But again, it's hard to
make that judgment call because we have so much RWBY context.
So I'm interested, if you are coming to Ice Queendom completely RWBY canon blind,
then we've spoiled the shit out of some things for later RWBY canon.
Did this episode pass the 4-episode test for you? Like, let us know. I'm interested.
Yeah. I just kind of want to know what you guys think.
Yeah.
And also, like, if we missed anything super obvious because we were too busy laughing at Batley. You know?
Or Santa.
Yeah, the fucking hero worship for Big Nicholas. To that whole, because he founded this and he did this and that and the other, and I am riding the hell out of those coattails. Like, all right, Jacques, you need to calm down. But it's
so happy he gets like vaporized. Oh, it's so funny.
Couldn't have happened to a more deserving individual.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Yeah, more fitting guy.
Oh, man.
The collar goes down here, so I can't really like.
Oh, now that we're talking, like, sorry, I just started thinking about previous volumes for RWBY. Man, we're not going to get to see Robin and, like, the Happy Huntresses.
As an anime?
Yeah, that would be so cool to see Robin and the Happy Huntresses in the anime. That would be awesome.
Later. This is why we need the Shion spinoff.
Yes. Okay. But,
yes, that thing. Gimme.
I can't believe that's only just now crossing my mind, but...
I am sure that there will be plenty of fan art of them as anime.
That would be great.
Let's be real. There probably already is. I'm sure there already is.
I'm sure it exists.
I'm sure there already is.
I'm sure it exists. Link it to me.
Yes, to her.
You don't want to see the cool Happy Huntresses fan art?
I want it to go through you first.
Okay, cool, I guess.
I understand how this works.
I guess, yeah, I shouldn't ask for links from strangers on the internet.
Yeah!
You know what? Yeah, whatever.
All right, excuse me. Any final thoughts on this episode?
This was fun. It's still, like, I'm still needing to adjust my expectations a little bit, but I'm still having a good time. And again, it is just a visual feast for the eyes. Still very excited about where the show is going.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see where we go now that we don't need to explain everything about our premise again. We're done with the recap. We're done with the tutorial level. This right here, what we're getting is like the end of tutorial mini boss fight, and then we're gonna go. And I'm interested to see where gonna go leads us. So yeah, we're gonna keep watching Ice Queendom because of course we are, but also because we're intrigued. But also because of course we are. So stick around for more of these because we are enjoying ourselves. In the meantime,
I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. I have a podcast called No Love Lost, where my co-host Will Link loves Lost, and I don't, and we talk about it. There's also a horror channel that we do called Silver Screams, where we talk about horror things. Most recently, we did a horror Q&A for Nope, which basically just sort of devolved into a plot synopsis as Katie stared at me like completely
intently
in abject horror.
What happened? To who? And they did what? Yeah.
We also did a Halloween Ends reaction trailer recently, which was super fun.
If you want to see just the Halloween trailers always get very genuine reactions out of me. So if you want to see a very genuine reaction to that trailer, that's
and we're also members of Rooster Team Radio, where we talk about Rooster Teeth related productions. So go check those out.
Yeah. And I'm Katie. You can follow me all over the social medias and on Twitch at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. I am also on a weekly show called Nighttime at the Nerd Bar. We stream live at 7:30 p.m. on Mondays. What day is it?
Friday.
I know.
But I only know that because I'm looking at my watch right now.
I forgot to get down on Friday.
Oh no!
Anyway, I'm on Nighttime at the Nerd Bar. It's on the Fanversation YouTube channel, 7:30 p.m. on Mondays, and also it has VOD, where my co-host Kara and I, we basically shoot the shit. We recap anime. We talk about what we've been watching. I talk about Overwatch League way too much. Like it's a very good time. We have special guests on sometimes. It's a good time. Those of you who follow this channel have seen that I've been posting some clips from it to this channel, so if you like what you see there, and if you like the pitch for the Death Note anthology show that I just randomly threw out, that's kind of the stuff that happens on that show, so tune in, super fun.
Gimme.
I know, God, I need it.
Shut up and take my money.
Shut up and take my money. Yeah, if you would like to support the channel, we have a Patreon that gets you all Rooster Teeth stuff, or all Rooster Teeth reactions, etc. It gets you the fun stuff early, and like I mentioned earlier, the higher tiers get you things like blooper reels and weird fun shit. So if you want to see what happens before or after the cut, that's kind of where that lives. We have a Ko-fi, if you just want to throw a couple bucks our way. We do commissions, not requests, commissions. And yeah, hitting all the nice little buttons down there also helps support the channel, because I guess YouTube has an algorithm that I ignore, but it still dictates how the channel works. So, yes, like, subscribe, ding, wear a mask, get vaccinated, take care of each other, and seriously, support your local libraries. Like, they've got all sorts of good shit.
I hope you learned a very important lesson about libraries!
Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Merry Christmas, everybody!
God fucking damn it.
Hail Santa.